today I'm going to be showing you 5-3-2 defensive pro player custom tactics and instructions. These are top 200. And the 5-3-2, normally most people associate quite an attacking formation. You've got those wing backs really pushing out wide and just quite an attacking formation with most 5 at the back formations. But I prefer to use the attacking 5 at the back ones as the 5-4-1 and the 5-2-1-2. The 5-3-2 I feel like personally is slightly more defensive. I'm going to show you why with the custom tactics and instructions we're using today. I've slightly altered them to make it easier for normal players because obviously top 200 players have their own versions of stuff and their own unique stuff, so I'll change it a little bit. But these are pretty much top 200 pro player custom tactics and instructions. So the defensive style, we're going to be sticking with balanced. We don't want to make it too attacking. It's sort of a mix between defensive and balanced with this formation here. So defensive style, going to be sticking with balanced. No need for a press on this one. Presses work really well on the 5-2-1-2, but not as much on the 5-3-2, and it drains a lot of players' energy. Georgia plays out of position. There's just no need for a press. The width we're going to keep it default, just use 50, and the depth we're going to keep it nice and balanced, use 55 as well. A tad higher than default, but it's not a huge difference. It just makes them play in a slightly higher line. You've got a lot of defenders here. You've got 5 already, so we don't want to make play a too deep line, because otherwise your opponent is going to keep control of the game too easily, and you want position. For the build-up play, we're using balance, and the chance creation we're using balance. I very rarely use balance on both of them, but it's nice to have some freedom sometimes, especially on this formation. It just seems to work well with balance and balance. That is what we're going to be going with. Now the width 35. Normally I really max out the width from the 5 at the back formation, but like I've said already, it's not as attacking, and the wing backs are already so wide by default. Even if they're on just 50 width, they're right up against the byline by default. So you don't want to make it, otherwise it's going to be out of the game if you play it too high. So bringing it in, they're still going to be very wide on 35, and it's not really going to change anyone else's position apart from your wing backs, just making them slightly narrow whilst they're actually in the game rather than just right up against the touchline and completely useless. For the players in box, we're using 6 to push more players forward into the opposition box, overloading the box when going forward, corners on 2 and free kicks on 2. That should not have been on 3. You can use 3 if you want to, but it's sort of up to you. So for the player instructions, both our strikers are recommended balanced width. I like to use stay central often, but today I'm going to go balanced width. You've got your wing backs, but there's no wingers out wide, so it's me sticking with balanced width. It doesn't make a huge difference either way. I prefer to use getting behind, and I'm also going to leave basic defensive support on for today. You can sort of, with the player instructions, depending on what plays you have yourself, change it up. So if you want to use false 9, target man, or just mixed attack, go feel free. But personally, I prefer getting behind with basic defense support on both of them. For the 3 centre mids, for the central one, make sure you have cover centre on, and then personally I'd just like to leave them default. I use stay back while attacking on the centre one. Still going to be playing centre mid, doesn't mean he's dropping deep, it just means he's not going to be pushing forward into the opposition box. And with stay back while attacking, you want to use stay on the edge of box across to ensure that they're not going into the opposition box, because all that's going to do is just draw them out of position too much, and you're going to have less players helping out in the midfield. You need to try and keep the shape as much as possible, and that's pretty much as simple as it is. The 2 on the outside, leave cover wing on, and pretty much just leave them default. If you want to stay on edge of box across to stop them going into the box as well, you can do. Personally, I quite like them going into the box, at least one of them. Otherwise, you're just going to have your 2 strikers in the box, and it's going to be quite hard to get a goal. So as for your 2 centre mids on the outside, your 3 centre backs always leave default. And for your wing backs now, it's very important. One of the biggest mistakes people make, especially sort of newer players or lower division players, is they use stay back while attacking on a 5 at the back. It works real well on a 4 at the back, but on a 5 at the back, do not use stay back while attacking. Just because it's 5 doesn't mean it's defensive, doesn't mean you should be keeping your wing backs back. Wing backs are actually very attacking players, believe it or not. They're not defensive like fullbacks. They are very attacking. You do need to be using balanced attack, otherwise you're going to be playing a flat 5 at the back line, which just isn't going to work well. Your opponent's going to have all possession, and you're just not going to get the ball. You really want those wing backs pushing forward. They are your only wide players. You need to make the most of them. Balanced attack, and make sure you have overlap on as well. So they're overlapping on the outside up against the touchline, or just as wide as possible instead of cutting in. That's on both your wing backs. And then lastly, for your goalkeeper, comes to crosses, it's your keeper's coming off his line more to defend corners and crosses. And sweeper keeper, so he's coming and being more aggressive pretty much, just challenging the opponent for through balls and loose balls coming into the box. And that is pretty much everything. That is the 5-3-2 sort of defensive / balance custom tactics and instructions. I will do a more attacking version soon, but I've done a lot of attacking tactics and stuff on this channel recently. So doing a more defensive formation today is the 5-3-2. Very good formation. Good to start off the game with, especially if you go a goal up or so, and just sort of hold the opposition, but not playing too defensive that you're going to have no possession. But that's everything for today, guys. Top 200 pro player custom tactics and instructions. That was, like I've said already. But thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day, and goodbye.